そして時は動き出す。
Welcome to my guide on Fighting Masters for the Sega Genesis. Now in this video, I'm going to cover some of the basics and some of the more unique techniques. If you want a full in-depth guide, then you can check it out in the link below. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. Now, this is a 2-button game, so you have attack and you have jump. So let's keep things simple and start with movement. So obviously you can move left and right. You can jump in place, you can jump forward, and you can jump backward. But there's two things that's not very obvious. First off, and of course you can crouch. But when you jump to a wall, you realize that your character will bounce forward. It's important to keep this in mind in situations where you're cornered, or even in situations where the opponent is cornered. Because if they jump back into the wall, they will just jump forward. And another thing to keep in mind is that, unlike most 2D fighting games, when you're in the air, your character will like automatically turn around, so like right here. In other fighting games, well, not all of them of course, but in most fighting games, your character will turn around when they land, but in this fighting game, the minute you're on the opposite side, your character will immediately turn around. Now let's talk about attacking. So when you're on the ground, you only have 2 attacks available. So this is your standing attack, and this is your crouching attack. Now, where it gets interesting is when you're in the air, because unlike the ground, you actually have multiple attacks in the air, and it can vary from character to character. Some might have more, some might have less, but the point is, there's at least like a few attacks you can do in the air. So this is me pressing B, or attack, in the air. Now here's me pressing down and attack in the air. You can see I get this weird like backwards kick. And this is universal for everyone in the game, but if you hold up and press A while you're in the air, you get this sort of like dive attack. It'll usually move you forward, and you can see that comes out instantly. And it's different for every character, some might go further than others or not as far. But the point is that everyone has a dive attack that moves them forward with up and A, or I should say up and B. So you might be wondering, well, is this how you deal damage? Not exactly. You can see that when I hit Xenon with my standing attack, or even with my dive attack, it doesn't really do a lot of damage. Sometimes it does like no damage at all. Like I'd hit him, and you see right there that I didn't even take a bar off. So how do we deal damage in this game? Well, the answer is actually grabbing. Grabbing is the main part of Fighting Masters. Because you're not able to block in this game, Fighting Masters is a game where the best offense is the only defense. Of course, that doesn't mean that you can get away with mashing buttons, as with proper offense you'd be able to play way better than if you just jumped around and kept pressing everything. So let me explain grabbing. I can't explain grabbing without talking about the 2 different states you can enter. The first is neutral state. When you walk into the opponent, or the opponent walks into you, or pretty much when any of you make contact with each other, you see this happen. This is called neutral state. In this state, whoever does their input first will get the grab off. So in that state, it comes down to timing, as whoever can do the input first. But the one you want to go for is stun state, and to do this, you have to land an attack. So now you see that Xenon is kind of like stunned, or like, you know, he's like looking up. And this is stun state, and this means that Xenon can't press anything for about a second. Like after a second, he recovers back to normal, but pretty much this gives you a free grab since he can't press anything. And you might have realized that these grabs are dealing way more damage than your regular attacks. So obviously to get the opponent in a stun state, you have to attack them. But there'll be times where they don't get like stunned, because they gotta enter stun in order for this to happen, but there'll be plenty of times like right there you see them bounce back. So this won't always work, but this is technically the general gameplay. You have to depend on these. So whether they bounce back or not, there is a high chance that, especially if you're ground attacks, that they would just fly, not fly back, but they would be stunned, and you'd be able to go in for a grab. And even better, if they are stunned, you can even close in with a dive attack, which is way more efficient. Now in this section, I'm going to talk about some of the more advanced techniques. I won't go over everything that I said in the guide, so again, if you want to learn everything about this game, you can check that in the description below. Now, in terms of movement, when it comes to jumping over characters, I already mentioned that they automatically turn around when you reach the opposite side, but if you're in an attack animation, they don't instantly turn around for some reason, and this can lead to some weird scenarios. It's character dependent, but trust me, especially with characters like Rotundo and Grinder in particular, who have attacks that linger for a very long time, this can lead to some like very interesting situations. Another thing to mention is both the camera and how you jump. So you realize that when you move back and forth, the camera moves with you. This is a good thing and a bad thing because, like, okay, right here you see that the opponent's in the corner, but if you move back, you can move them out of the corner. And the only way the camera won't move is if both of you is moving backwards or forwards, like right here. And the reason why the camera is slightly moving is because Dio is actually faster than Zenon. As for jumping, it gets a bit weird because you see that when I jump, I automatically crouch, and this isn't me holding down when I land, this happens automatically. This is a very annoying issue because when you press attack when you land, even if you're not holding down, you get a crouching attack. Not only that, but if I try holding forward or backward while this happens, you can see that there's a bit of a delay. Like, I don't move right away. And the only way to get out of this is to like jump immediately. You can also use a dive attack, of course, or like use a jump attack at the minute you land. But this is pretty annoying because there'll be situations where like you hit the opponent with a jump attack and like maybe you know, you're not close enough and you're in that crouching animation, so you gotta remember to instantly like, this is definitely the point where you want to instantly do a dive attack when you get a stun in order to close the distance. I mentioned earlier that when you get hit by a basic attack, you get stunned. It won't always happen, sometimes you'll get knocked back instead, but the point is you use basic attacks to stun people and go for a grab. Now the thing is, there's another way to do this. So right now you're gonna see Zenon use his Fire Breath. It's a decent move, but it has a very long recovery. If you jump into him during this, you can see that he actually landed in a stunned state. So you could technically treat this like a counter hit since he's like in a stunned state and like you grabbed him during his attack animation. And this goes for everyone. So if you grab someone during their attack animation or they jump in at you with an attack and they're still in the animation when they land, they'll be in a stunned state when you make contact with them, and that means a free grab. Now the last thing I want to mention is wall damage and infinite loops. And these are pretty important because for some characters, this is how they deal a lot of damage. Now, I didn't mention this earlier, but when your opponent hits a wall during a grab, that counts as extra damage. So for example, if I'm using Dirk here, if I throw Zygrunt, it only did like one hit, it did like 2 bars of health. But if I throw him to the wall, it'll deal even more health. So obviously some grabs are really good if the opponent can hit a wall. This is very important for Dirk because when he corners the opponent, he can lead into a lot of damage since his grab does a lot of hits when near the wall. Alright, well that was 2 hits, but if you're a bit closer, you can get even more. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, that was a lot of damage there. Now let me talk about Zygrunt. So in my opinion, he is the best character in the game. I could be wrong, but he is definitely one of the best. And the reason is because of how wake-ups work. So I'm gonna throw Dirk. I'm gonna use this grab right here. This is gonna hit him, he's gonna throw him, and right when he gets up, he's actually invincible for a few frames. This goes for everyone in the game, but usually when you throw someone, they wake up with a little bit of invincibility for a very brief moment. And this is a good thing because this game has no blocking, so you can imagine that if you wasn't invincible, it would lead into an infinite. Which is funny, because Zygrunt has a grab that ignores this rule, and so do a few others. So I'm going to perform it right now. You do it by pressing jump during the grab. 1, 2. And you see right here that Dirk is kind of kneeling. Like he's like pretty much like low to the ground, and then after a brief moment, he will actually get up. Now what this means is, during that kneeling animation, it's actually taking up his iframes, because it's technically counting as like standing, I guess, but he's not able to press anything. So what you do is, you draw him, and as he's getting up, you draw an attack. And until he gets knocked back randomly, this is an infinite loop. Now obviously it's not too easy since the Zygrunt is throwing them really far and you have to catch up. But this can be solved by simply doing dive kicks in order to close the distance. So here's an example. 1, 2, gets up, and then oh wow. And I'm glad that happened, because if you're too close to the opponent when they get up, they would just be able to like instantly start a grab because you're making contact. So don't let that happen. Anyways, 1, 2, keep a certain distance and wake up with a punch, and right there you saw that Dirk just got knocked back. This is why I call these, in the guide I call these potential infinite loops, because even though you can hit them on the way up, if they get knocked back, the loop is pretty much over, since that kind of knockdown, like when you get knocked back in this game, you also get up with iframes. So let me try it one more time. 1, 2, go for a punch. And again, like, he got knocked back. It's a complete RNG chance. You don't really have any control over it. It's just like that. And you can see I finally got it there. Do it again. Mistimed it. But you get the point. The point is, some characters can do an infinite loop, but the loop will end randomly because of how knockback works. I don't know. Hopefully I covered the most important points, but of course there is more to this game, and I'm sure I sound like a broken record at this point, but if you want to learn everything about this game, then you can check it out in the guide below. So with everything being said, let's get into the long play. Alright, so welcome to my no death run, and this is going to be me commentating over a run I already did, just to make things easier so I could properly explain how the characters work and how to deal with the CPU. So let's get straight into it. Now obviously you have a large selection of characters here, about 12 actually, and the first one is Dirk, Mastodon, then Ecus, Morin, Grinder, Goldrock, Phoenix, Zygrunt, Rotundo, Xenon, Dio, and Uppercut. And of course for this playthrough I'm gonna pick Dio, as I did do a color palette mod before doing this run. And yeah, let's get into it. So after you pick a character, you get a story, and this is the same story that's shown in the manual of the game and if you wait on the title screen. Anyhow, a giant red sun will go nova within hours. 12 star systems inhabited by sentient beings will be destroyed. An omnipotent race, known only as primaries, declare their power to save one civilization from extinction. To win the right to survive, each race must choose a champion strong enough to compete in the tournament to the death. Only one warrior can emerge triumphant. So the story is pretty cool. I mean, it might be just as good if not even better in the Japanese version, as that one is about like 11 of those civilizations being like brain controlled and you have to stop them. But the only problem is that the ending is the same for all characters, so while it is cool, it's not like they could have did so much more with it, is what I'm trying to say. So this is the first opponent. It's a Goldrock, and the order you face the opponents in will depend on who you face first. So because I'm facing Goldrock first, it will go in order from like from top to bottom. So after Gold Rock is Phoenix, and then Zygrun, and so on. So it goes down to character select, and there's 11 stages, with the 12th stage being the final boss, which means it's impossible for you to face yourself, as the game will skip that entirely. So Gold Rock, actually before I even talk about Gold Rock, I should explain the CPU in general. They love to jump a lot, especially if you knock them down, and of course you can't take advantage of this, so when you get a knockdown you usually want to like back up and either go for a dive attack or go for a standing attack. And standing attacks are really useful because they can hit opponents out of the air. So you see me do that in this match, you know, I'm hitting him with dive attacks, like here, I'm using a lot of standing attacks because I'm waiting for him to jump at me. And that should do it. So Gold Rock isn't too bad, he doesn't jump too high, so you can dive attack him, but I find it easier to just wait and go for a standing attack to hit him out of the air. Now, even though the CPU likes to jump a lot, it might seem like the CPU is easy, but there's two major issues with the CPU, and one is their movement speed. Unlike you, when you walk like back and forth, it's normal, it's consistent. When they walk back and forth, sometimes they'll walk really, really fast, and then sometimes they'll walk really slow, and it can just change at any moment, and it's very, it's very screwed up, let's just put it that way. This would be easy to deal with if it wasn't for the other fact that, like, in the intro or in the gameplay section, I mentioned neutral grabs, where like if both characters walk into each other, they'll be in like a neutral state where whoever presses the button first will get the grab. Obviously, this is the CPU, so if this happens, they're most likely gonna get the grab first. So a neutral state grab is the last thing you want to do with the CPU. You always want to stun them before going in for a grab. Surprisingly, I made a short work of Phoenix. Sometimes he does get a few throws in from my practice attempts. But other than that, like, Phoenix is a bit, like, he jumps really high, but he's a bit weird in that he tries to, like, fly at times, which doesn't make sense since the fly itself isn't really an attack. But it is possible to hit him out of the air. Now, I should really try to focus on explaining these, now that I explained the CPU, I should actually talk about these characters. So Zygrun, he might be, in my opinion, the best character in the game because he has everything you'd want in a character. He has an easy loop. He has a good dive kick, good air buttons. His crouching attack is deceptively, like, it hits very far. And like his standing attack is really good as an anti-air. Now when facing the CPU, because I'm using Dio, it's easy to beat him in the air with my jump kick, or I should say jump B. And then I can go in for a grab and that's it. I just realized I'm going through this game really fast. But it's not like I'm trying to speedrun it like I did with Uppercut. Because while Dio is a good character, I don't think he's the best for dealing with the CPU. He's decent though, it works. Like, I actually got through the game with him, so there you go. Alright, this is a Rotundo. Because it's a CPU, you usually want to like either go for jump attacks or you want to stand back. Honestly, the general strategy for CPUs, like just in general, you either want to stand back and go for like a, you know, like a standing attack or a crouching attack when they come at you. So like right here, you might see me do it. 1, 2, 3, and then I'm gonna back up. I'm going for a lot of jump attacks actually. Wow. For some characters it works, like Dio. For some it doesn't. I think a decent example might be Mastodon. I'm not sure. Cause I only did a arcade run with him once, and it has been a while since then. But yeah, like with the CPU, every time you knock them down, you want to back up and you go for one or two things. Either you punch them out of the air with your standing attack, or you try to like either jump over them while they're in the air, or you can like meet them in the air with a jump attack. And wow, I didn't even get to talk about Rotundo, did I? Rotundo's actually pretty strong himself. He didn't get to do a lot in that match, so there wasn't much I could say. But he is a pretty good character. And the reason is because Rotundo, like, he has a potential infinite loop. He can, he has a move where he like rolls down across the air and it's like, it stays active forever. But yeah, he's a really good character. Anyways, there we get to Xenon. He's the only character in this game that has more HP than everyone else, and the reason why he doesn't have more HP than me is because in the single player mode, whenever you win, you get HP back, and you know, if you have a decent amount of health when you win, you can actually get more than the default HP, so as long as you play well, you should always have more HP than the CPU in each match, unless they get you to like maybe 1 bar of health. So Xenon is very easy to beat when the CPU uses him because his flame breath lasts for like a very long while. Like you saw him doing it earlier where he did the flame breath and like it's a good move, but it leaves him open for quite a while. So if you just wait for the flame breath, you can just jump in and either go for a grab by making contact or go for an air attack. So even though Xenon is decent when in the hands of a human, he's pretty easy if it's the CPU. Alright, this is Uppercut. This is the best worst character in the game, and what I mean by that is you won't see me do it here since I didn't get the opportunity to showcase it, but Uppercut has the easiest infinite loop in the game, and like all loops, it's possible for it to fail if the opponent gets knocked back from the grab. But if it does work, then it does a good amount of damage and he can easily repeat it. Now, why is he the worst character though? Well, the reason is because when Uppercut gets knocked back, he's the only character in this game that gets up without being invincible. And you might see that happen at the end of this match. Close. It should happen soon. So I jump to the right. Then I get shown myself. But yeah, like he's very he's like a glass cannon pretty much, where it's possible for him to win in one grab, but it's also possible for him to lose in one grab. Alright, so it should be coming up soon. You see me like, oh wow, okay, so I just win. But yeah, when he gets knocked back, you can just hit him with like a backup of him with a dive attack, and if he keeps getting knocked back, it would just loop into itself. So yeah, he's really frail, I guess, if I had to put it in a case. Alright, Dirk is pretty, he might be one of the more interesting characters, even if he's not, like, amazing. And the reason is because, well, there's two things. First off, he needs the corner in order to deal a lot of damage, because he has two grabs in particular, where, I should say, there's one grab that it almost always happens, but if he grabs you in the corner, he will like hit the wall, and I already mentioned how when you throw someone to the wall they do extra damage, but if he hits you with this grab in the wall, it will deal like 4 hits and it deals a lot of damage. That grab right there, if he makes contact with the wall during that, it will deal a lot. And that's the other grab that's supposed to do the same thing. I think it works with Dirk, but I couldn't get it to work consistently, if it's possible. Anyhow, other than that, he also has a weird camera glitch where if he's cornered, I didn't get to show this in the gameplay section, but whenever he's cornered and he throws the opponent, the camera will scroll with him and he'll be able to kick them out of the air, which will lead into another stun. And then he can close them for a grab, which might be this game's only case of a combo. Which is kind of odd since this is Fighting Masters we're talking about. There's not really any combos since when you hit someone, they go into invisibility frames and the only option is to grab them. And so I'm struggling a bit here, but I should take him out soon. This music is really good, by the way. I should mention, there's not a lot of tracks in this game, but I do love the music. It's pretty good. It can, in some cases, it can get repetitive because, you know, you listen to the same 3 tracks for like most of the game. But it does its job. I don't have anything against it. Especially that Versus team. They did a really good job on that. If there's one person that did his job, it's the composer, definitely. I will say that much. This is Mastodon. Now, the CPU Mastodon loves to jump because I know Mastodon can jump higher than this, but for some reason, when the CPU jumps with Mastodon, they always do like a short jump, and it's very easy to hit them out of the air if you just hold your ground and use standing attacks. You can see that happening here. I'm backing up, and then I'm just gonna keep throwing out standing attacks, and look, another stun. 1, 2, 3. And yeah, it's a really easy match. Mastodon does have long range on some of his attacks, but if you just wait for him to short hop and like to you, you can just hit him out of the air and go from there. He might be one of the easiest opponents, to be honest. Alright, now Icarus is like... This is definitely the worst character in the game in the hands of a human. He just has nothing, like... He does have Dirk's insane damage in the corner, but he has nothing else. Like, he has a hard time anti-airing. He has no loops. His dive kick is awful. He's just not a good character. As for the TPU, it plays similar to Mastodon, in which they love doing short hops and constantly drawing out attacks. And it's just as easy, but I guess because Icarus does like a kick, there are times where like he'll just kick you instead and like it will go through. And here you see me take a few throws. This match should have been ended, but like I don't know why I was so cautious and just waiting to like I was trying to play it safe, you know. I was trying to keep my distance and wait for him to jump forward. But honestly, I had like a decent amount of life. It wouldn't have hurt for me to like actually go forward and try to grab him. Instead, I'm getting destroyed right here. Alright, that should do it. Just one more hit. There we go. So even though this game is 11 stages long, it's not as long as it looks. It's a pretty short game when you consider the fact that it's only one round against these CPUs. So if you know what you're doing, you can get through it pretty fast. This is stage 10. Morin is pretty... She's a strong character in versus mode. As for the CPU, she jumps a lot. You see her jump very high, and it's hard to recommend what to do here. For some characters, you want to stay on the ground and try to like that. You want to try to anti-air her, but you need a lot of distance because, again, she jumps very far. Or you can try to meet her in the air with your jump attacks. I think I might do that here. And let's see. But right now, I am getting destroyed. Alright, now let's get some room. Alright, I just keep it simple, never mind. But yeah, like, with Morin, you need a lot of space in order to have enough time to, like, anti-air her, because obviously, if you don't get enough space from her, she'll, like, jump over you and, like, potentially get a free grab since you're still in your attack animation. Or hit you with her air attack. Grinder is a bit weird. I remember when I first played this game, and I thought Grinder was the strongest character ever because he had like a really cool dive kick. Like, because like he spins. He might do it here. But yeah, he like spins during his dive kick and it has so much range and it like dives in at you at a weird angle. I'm like, yo, this guy is broken. But he's actually not very strong, and the reason is because he doesn't have many loops. As good as his dive kick is, you can just hit him out of the air, which isn't too hard to do in this game. And again, he's not awful, he's just not very great, that's all. And I'm doing the same thing here, I'm keeping my distance, I'm going for jump attacks here. And that should be it. And already, it didn't feel like it took so long, but we're at the final boss. And it's here that you can lose, even if you got here without losing. It's this fight in which you can lose all of your continues here. Like, that's it. Because this boss is cheap. All you need to know is his damage is insane. Like 3 to 4 grabs and you're dead. He has good range on his normals. He's immune to an infinite loop since he always does a quick get up. And it's just, look at his HP bar, it's the same as mine, even though like I saved up all my HP. This fight is stressful, and I remember playing this off screen, like doing some practice runs, and I died getting up here. It was only this fight I struggled with. All of the other fights before this was fine. It's specifically this boss that gave me trouble. Thankfully, I figured out a decent way to beat this with Dio. All you want to do is keep your space and wait for him to jump. Don't engage, because if you try to engage, you're most likely gonna get hit, and that'll lead into it leads to a very unpleasant experience. So you see me back up, and you see me waiting for him to jump. Unfortunately, I get grabbed here, but that's fine. Somehow I got a grab there. That was complete luck. And I'm just waiting for him to jump. I'm not going forward. I'm just waiting, and there we go. Oh, nope. Hold up. Oh, this is looking pretty close. How do I win this? Oh, one more? There we go. Okay, so yeah, it's pretty hard to engage him because of his size and range, and yeah, it's not an easy boss fight, but if you know what to do, it's not too bad. So if you're using Dio, you can do what I did there. Anyways, here's the ending. So, the arena is silent, the contest is over, the battlegrounds lie empty, and one warrior stands alone, victorious. The galaxy is in chaos, awaiting its imminent devastation. True to their word, the primaries call upon forces to take your people away to safety. All that is left of your world is a fading white glare in the distance. Wait, yo, this music? Hold up. Drop. Damn, they went in on this! Okay, anyways, okay, wait. Okay, your civilization has been ensured for another generation, while others have perished in the galactic destruction wrought by the nova of the red sun. All is quiet now, but how long will it remain so? Yo, they were in with— yo, okay, you can't tell me the completely get a raise for this, hold up. Anyways, that's Fighting Masters. It's okay. It doesn't, like— okay, let me calm down. Look, the game is, it's alright, like— I don't hate it, but I don't exactly, like— I don't find it amazing, or, like, I don't really like it either, in that, like, it doesn't do anything harmful, like— how can I put it this way? You know, I like that there's 12 characters, but it's held back by the fact that they don't have a lot of moves or frames of animation. The story's pretty cool, but the ending's the same, so that kind of sucks. The versus mode can be really fun until, like, both players know how to break the game in half and use potential infinite loops, in which it could— I'm sure it could still be fun in that case, but it might be a bit frustrating, I don't know. But yeah, this game's like a mixed bag. It's not a bad game, it's just not very good either. But would I recommend it to someone? If you're playing with a friend, yeah, sure, but if you're playing on your own, I'm not entirely sure about that. Like, there's only one ending. Facing against the CPU, especially the final boss, can be very frustrating, and it's very unfair. And, yeah, that's about it. And I guess I should mention— that was a weird glitch. I should mention that, like, you won't see these credits if you play on easy mode, but you'll see it if you play on normal mode or hard mode. But yeah, that was Fighting Masters, and maybe I might turn this game on from— like, this isn't a case of, like, let's say some really bad games I play where I'll never turn this on again. Maybe sometime, like a month or two, I might turn it back on or play for a friend. But that's about it. With that being said, I'll see you guys on my next guide, and have a good day.